Keanu Reeves is a name that today inspires awe, affection, and admiration across generations.
But before he became the internet's wholesome king, before the John Wick franchise brought him roaring back into Hollywood's spotlight, before memes and fan lore turned him into a living legend, he was just another working actor in a crowded industry, trying to find his place. His early rise in the late 1980s and 1990s wasn't just a lucky break, it was a testament to his persistence, his adaptability, and his ability to connect with audiences in ways that critics often overlook. To understand the magnitude of Keanu Reeves' comeback, we have to start with his beginnings, the journey of a Canadian kid who became an unlikely Hollywood star. Born in Beirut, Lebanon, in 1964, Keanu Charles Reeves had an unconventional upbringing. His father, of Hawaiian and Chinese descent, abandoned the family when Keanu was just 3 years old. His mother, of English origin, raised him while moving frequently between locations such as Australia, New York, and finally Toronto. This constant movement gave Reeves a sense of restlessness, but also adaptability. In Toronto, he discovered acting, first on stage and then in television roles. Keanu wasn't the polished prodigy some stars start out as. He was awkward, shy, and still finding his voice. But he had an intensity, a kind of quiet charisma, that drew people in. His first major break came in 1986 with the hockey film Youngblood, where he played a Quebecois goalie alongside Rob Lowe. It wasn't a starring role, but it gave him a foothold in Hollywood. What followed were a string of performances that showcased his versatility: the dark teen drama River's Edge, 1986, where he played a conflicted high schooler dealing with a friend's crime, and Dangerous Liaisons, 1988, a lavish period drama where he held his own alongside heavyweights like Glenn Close and John Malkovich. Critics began to notice his potential, even if his unconventional delivery and sometimes understated performances made him hard to categorize. Then came the movie that changed everything, Bill Ted's Excellent Adventure, 1989. With his floppy hair, wide-eyed innocence, and surfer dude voice, Reeves as Ted Theodore Logan became a cultural phenomenon. The movie was a time travel comedy that didn't take itself too seriously, but Keanu's performance cemented him as a figure of pure, goofy likability. The film was a surprise hit, grossing over $40 million on a modest budget, and Reeves became instantly recognizable to a new generation of teens. But this breakout also carried a risk: typecasting. Many assumed Keanu would never be able to shed the image of the lovable but dim-witted Ted. Yet Reeves had no intention of being boxed in. Throughout the early 1990s, he deliberately chose roles that stretched him beyond that archetype. He took on Shakespeare, starring as Don John in Kenneth Branagh's Much Ado About Nothing, 1993. He experimented with indie films like Gus Van Sant's My Own Private Idaho, 1991, where he played a street hustler opposite River Phoenix. That role in particular showed layers of vulnerability and depth that critics hadn't seen before, and even if the film wasn't a mainstream blockbuster, it proved that Reeves wasn't just a one-note actor. But the real turning point in his career trajectory came with Point Break, 1991. Starring opposite Patrick Swayze, Reeves played Johnny Utah, an FBI agent who infiltrates a group of bank-robbing surfers. The film blended action with philosophical undertones about freedom, thrill-seeking, and loyalty. Reeves' physicality, combined with his understated charm, made him believable both as an action hero and as a man torn between duty and friendship. The movie became a cult classic, and suddenly Keanu wasn't just the goofy stoner from Bill Ted anymore. He was a leading man who could headline action films. If Point Break cracked the door open, Speed, 1994, kicked it wide open. Playing LAPD officer Jack Traven, Reeves anchored one of the decade's most thrilling blockbusters. The premise was simple: a bomb on a bus that can't drop below 50 miles per hour, but the execution was electrifying. Alongside Sandra Bullock, Reeves delivered a performance that was equal parts heroic and human. His chemistry with Bullock was undeniable, and the film's massive box office success, $350 million worldwide, transformed him into a global star. For the first time, Keanu Reeves was a household name, a bona fide action hero in an industry dominated by the likes of Stallone, Schwarzenegger, and Willis. But unlike those muscle-bound icons, Reeves brought something different to the action genre. He wasn't the indestructible super soldier, he was the everyman hero. There was a vulnerability to him, a gentleness that made audiences root for him even more. He was strong, yes, but also empathetic, awkward at times, and unmistakably human. That mix resonated with audiences in ways that Hollywood executives didn't always understand. After Speed, Reeves made some puzzling choices. He turned down Speed 2, Cruise Control, a decision that baffled many in Hollywood. Instead, he joined a stage production of Hamlet in Winnipeg, Canada, a move that suggested he cared more about artistic exploration than box office glory. The critics were divided, but his commitment to stretching himself as an actor was undeniable. Still, Reeves wasn't done redefining himself. In 1999, he took on the role that would forever change cinema, Neo in The Matrix. Directed by the Wachowskis, The Matrix was revolutionary, a sci-fi action film that blended philosophy, cyberpunk aesthetics, and groundbreaking special effects. Reeves' stoic intensity was perfectly suited for the role of Neo, a computer hacker who learns the world is a simulated reality. The film's bullet-time visuals became instantly iconic, and Reeves' martial arts training made him a credible and mesmerizing action figure. The Matrix wasn't just a hit, it was a cultural earthquake. It grossed over $460 million worldwide, won 4 Academy Awards, and redefined what action and science fiction could look like. For Reeves, it solidified his place in Hollywood history. He was no longer just the guy from Bill Ted, or the cop from Speed. He was Neo, the One, a symbol of rebellion and awakening that resonated deeply with audiences at the dawn of the digital age. By the turn of the millennium, Keanu Reeves had achieved something few actors manage. He had successfully reinvented himself multiple times. From lovable slacker to indie actor, from action star to philosophical sci-fi icon, he had carved out a unique niche in Hollywood. He wasn't the most versatile actor by conventional standards, nor was he the most critically acclaimed. But he had something rarer, an ability to embody characters who felt authentic, relatable, and unforgettable. His early stardom was more than just luck. It was the product of years of persistence, of navigating typecasting, of taking risks that sometimes confused Hollywood but won him enduring loyalty from fans. Keanu Reeves' rise set the stage for everything that would come later: The Fall, The Wilderness Years, the shocking resurgence with John Wick. But even in those early days, one thing was clear: Keanu wasn't like other stars. He was different, and that difference would one day become the foundation of his legend. In the aftermath of the Matrix phenomenon, Keanu Reeves found himself in a strange and difficult position. The late 1990s had catapulted him into superstardom, with The Matrix not only becoming a box office juggernaut but also reshaping science fiction cinema. Yet, the early 2000s didn't deliver the smooth continuation many expected for his career. Instead, they ushered in one of the most challenging and painful chapters of his life, both professionally and personally. The first blow came with the Matrix sequels, Reloaded, 2003, and Revolutions, 2003. Though commercially successful, the films were divisive. Audiences and critics who had hailed the first film as groundbreaking complained that the sequels were bloated, overly complicated, and heavy on spectacle without the same emotional core. Reeves, caught in the center of the backlash, wasn't directly blamed for the scripts, but the magic surrounding his role as Neo began to fade. What had once been a career-defining part now became something of a burden, as he risked being pigeonholed as just the Matrix guy. Outside the Matrix universe, Reeves was desperate to prove that he could carry other types of films. But the choices he made in the early 2000s didn't work in his favor. The Day the Earth Stood Still, 2008, a remake of the sci-fi classic, was intended to showcase his ability to lead a big-budget studio film, but it was met with harsh criticism and lackluster box office results. Audiences found his performance flat, and critics accused him of embodying the very stereotype they had begun to use against him, that he was wooden, expressionless, and lacking range. Then there was 47 Ronin, 2013, an ambitious fantasy epic inspired by Japanese legend. The film ballooned in budget, plagued with production issues, and ultimately bombed at the box office, losing Universal Pictures millions of dollars. Once again, Reeves was cast as the face of the failure, further reinforcing the narrative that his time as a Hollywood A-lister was over. Casting directors grew hesitant, studios saw him as risky, and the once bankable star seemed destined for the sidelines. But the struggles weren't confined to his career. In fact, his personal life during this period was marked by unimaginable tragedy. In 1999, Keanu and his then-girlfriend Jennifer Syme were expecting their first child together. Devastatingly, their daughter was stillborn at 8 months. The grief shattered the couple, and their relationship ended shortly after. Just 2 years later, tragedy struck again when Jennifer died in a car accident in Los Angeles at only 28 years old. Keanu, already a deeply private person, withdrew even further from Hollywood's spotlight. Friends and colleagues later described how these losses left him profoundly changed, more introspective, more solitary, and, in many ways, more fragile. As if grief and career stagnation weren't enough, Hollywood itself seemed to turn on him. The industry thrives on momentum, and without a string of hits to sustain him, Reeves became a target for ridicule. His understated, quiet personality was misinterpreted as aloofness, and his minimalist acting style, once praised for its sincerity, was now mocked as emptiness. Publications labeled him a wooden actor, a phrase that stuck to his name like a shadow. Casting directors began overlooking him for leading roles, and his name no longer guaranteed a box office draw. Yet, even as Hollywood dismissed him, audiences never fully let go. There was always a lingering affection for Keanu Reeves, the underdog quality, the genuine humility, and the sense that he was somehow different from other stars. But during the early 2000s, that affection lived mostly in memory. On the surface, it seemed his time had passed. For more than a decade after The Matrix, Keanu's career appeared to be spiraling into obscurity, weighed down by box office flops and haunted by personal grief. It was in this crucible of loss, ridicule, and professional doubt that the foundation for his eventual comeback was forged. While Hollywood had written him off, Keanu's quiet resilience and refusal to conform to industry expectations would, in time, become his greatest strength. But in these years, before the Renaissance, Keanu Reeves was a fallen star, a man who had touched the peak of Hollywood only to plummet into the depths of tragedy and rejection. By 2014, Keanu Reeves was hovering in a strange limbo. Hollywood had written him off years earlier, critics still dismissed him as wooden, and younger audiences barely remembered why he had once been a household name. Yet, almost as if fate had been waiting for the right moment, Reeves found the perfect project, a film that would not only resurrect his career but redefine him for a whole new generation. That project was John Wick. When the movie hit theaters, nobody expected much. It was a relatively small action film, directed by first-time filmmakers Chad Stahelski and David Leitch, both former stunt coordinators. On paper, it looked like another mid-budget action flick destined to get lost in the shuffle. But what audiences got was something entirely different. John Wick wasn't just an action movie, it was a revelation. It was sleek, stylized, and ruthless, but it also carried an emotional core that was impossible to ignore. At its center was Reeves, playing a retired assassin grieving his wife's death, clinging to the last gift she left him, a puppy. When that puppy is brutally killed, the quiet widower transforms back into a vengeful force of nature. The premise was deceptively simple, yet Reeves infused it with raw authenticity. His grief wasn't an act, audiences knew about the personal tragedies in his life, and that real pain seemed to bleed into every frame. Suddenly, what could have been a generic revenge flick became something far deeper, a story about loss, rage, and love that refuses to die. What truly stunned Hollywood was how far Reeves went to bring John Wick to life. Instead of letting stunt doubles carry the heavy load, he threw himself into the physicality of the role. He trained for months in gun fu, martial arts, and driving combat sequences. Behind-the-scenes footage showed him firing hundreds of rounds at shooting ranges, practicing elaborate fight choreography until it became second nature. He wasn't just playing an assassin, he was becoming one. This dedication brought an authenticity to the screen that audiences couldn't deny. The action wasn't CGI-heavy chaos like so many blockbusters, it was crisp, fluid, and real, with Reeves at the center of every move. When John Wick premiered, it shocked everyone. Critics who had once called Reeves one-note now praised his precision and emotional depth. The movie became a sleeper hit, grossing far more than expected and igniting a cultural phenomenon. More importantly, it marked the rebirth of Keanu Reeves. He wasn't just back, he was better than ever. The role fit him like a second skin, reminding audiences why they had loved him in the first place. The success of the first film quickly snowballed into something bigger. Sequels followed, each raising the stakes with more intricate world building, stunning set pieces, and Reeves pushing himself further physically and emotionally. By the time John Wick, Chapter 3 hit theaters, the franchise had become a billion-dollar empire. Reeves was suddenly at the center of one of Hollywood's biggest action franchises, not just as an actor but as the soul of a story that resonated worldwide. Yet, the comeback wasn't only about the movies. During this same period, Reeves underwent a transformation in the eyes of the public. As social media amplified celebrity culture, stories about Reeves began going viral. Strangers posted photos of him giving up his seat on the subway, or sitting quietly on a park bench eating a sandwich alone. Crew members from his films shared anecdotes about how he gifted them motorcycles as thank-you presents, or how he treated every member of the production with respect, no matter their role. Unlike so many stars, Reeves had no entourage, no arrogance, no scandal. He was just kind. Soon, the internet crowned him the wholesome king. Memes about sad Keanu turned into tributes to his humility and resilience. His every small act of generosity, donating millions to cancer research, quietly helping friends, never flaunting his wealth, only deepened his legend. Reeves wasn't just making a comeback as an actor, he was becoming a cultural symbol of decency in an industry often plagued by ego and excess. The John Wick miracle was more than a career revival, it was a reinvention. Reeves was no longer the stiff action star of old. He was a man who had endured unimaginable grief, faced professional rejection, and yet returned with dignity, grace, and renewed strength. The franchise gave him his crown back, but his character gave him something more: immortality. John Wick wasn't just a role, it was an extension of Keanu Reeves himself, a quiet, relentless fighter who keeps going against all odds. Unlike most Hollywood stars who carefully curate their public image through PR teams, Reeves' immortality in meme culture was born out of authenticity, relatability, and vulnerability. It all started in 2010 with a single photograph that would forever change the way the world looked at him, the now iconic "Sad Keanu" meme. A paparazzi shot captured Reeves sitting alone on a park bench, wearing a simple jacket and jeans, eating a sandwich, his posture slightly slouched, his expression heavy with thought. The image quickly spread across online forums and social media platforms, with fans photoshopping him into surreal and absurd scenarios. But unlike other celebrity memes that mock or diminish their subjects, Sad Keanu struck a different chord. It humanized him. People saw not just a movie star but a man who seemed fragile, lonely, and deeply human in a world where celebrities usually project untouchable perfection. The meme revealed what audiences already suspected: Keanu wasn't like other Hollywood stars. He wasn't trying to be above anyone, he was one of us. Fast forward to 2019, and the internet crowned this phenomenon the Keanu-ssance. The year became the ultimate convergence of career revival and cultural adoration. John Wick, Chapter 3, Parabellum dominated the box office, cementing the franchise as one of the greatest action series of the modern era. But Reeves wasn't just wielding guns and martial arts choreography, he was also lending his voice to Duke Kaboom in Toy Story 4, delighting younger audiences and showing his comedic side. Around the same time, he stole the show with a self-parodying cameo in Netflix's romantic comedy Always Be My Maybe, where he played an exaggerated version of himself, stylish, eccentric, yet self-aware and hilarious. This meta-performance turned him into a viral sensation all over again, proving that he didn't just understand his own meme-ified image but was willing to play along with it. And then came Cyberpunk 2077, the highly anticipated video game that made him a digital icon for a new generation. His character, Johnny Silverhand, was rebellious, cool, and mysterious, everything gamers already adored about Reeves in real life. But perhaps the peak of his internet immortality came not from a movie or a game but from a single unscripted moment. During the Electronic Entertainment Expo, E3, in 2019, Reeves appeared on stage to present Cyberpunk 2077. When a fan shouted, "You're breathtaking," Reeves immediately pointed back and replied, "You're breathtaking." "You're all breathtaking." The moment went viral instantly, spawning memes, GIFs, and headlines across the globe. It encapsulated everything people loved about him: his humility, kindness, and ability to turn even a corporate presentation into something heartfelt and memorable. This era of meme culture didn't just amplify Reeves' career, it turned him into an untouchable figure in digital folklore. Unlike other actors who might resist or cringe at becoming meme material, Reeves embraced it by doing nothing at all. He simply kept being himself, polite on red carpets, respectful in interviews, quietly generous behind the scenes. Stories circulated about him giving up his seat on the subway, writing personal thank you notes to crew members, or quietly donating millions to children's hospitals without seeking publicity. In the age of internet cynicism, Reeves became a rare case of universal approval, someone who couldn't be cancelled, mocked, or dethroned because his very brand was honesty. The sad Keanu bench photo, once seen as melancholy, now feels prophetic. It was the beginning of an era where fans connected with Reeves on a level beyond stardom, making him a living legend who exists simultaneously as an action hero, a cultural meme, and a symbol of humility. By 2019, Keanu Reeves wasn't just a Hollywood actor anymore, he was a cornerstone of internet culture, an icon whose memes, kindness, and authenticity turned him into something few celebrities ever achieve: immortality in the digital age. Keanu Reeves' legacy today feels less like the story of an actor who had ups and downs and more like a cultural parable about how to endure in an industry that chews people up and spits them out. Unlike many of his peers, he has never played the Hollywood game the way it was supposed to be played. He has no hunger for tabloids, no obsession with flaunting wealth, no entourage demanding red carpet attention. Instead, he quietly built a reputation as the anti-celebrity celebrity, a man who embodies the rare idea of humility in the modern entertainment world. Fans admire his humanity as much as his artistry, and that has become central to his enduring appeal. What sets Keanu apart is not just the roles he has played, but the way he has reshaped expectations of what an action star can be. Through franchises like The Matrix and John Wick, he proved that you don't need endless CGI spectacle or detached stunt doubles to deliver cinematic thrills. His commitment to learning martial arts, firearms handling, and choreographed fight scenes raised the bar for authenticity in action cinema. His dedication to practical stunts and long takes reminded audiences that effort and precision could outshine flashy shortcuts. Future generations of action stars are now compared against the standard Reeves helped redefine. But more than the films, it's his authenticity that has etched him into cultural memory. His career has been built on resilience and patience, with decades of reinvention that always came from within rather than as the result of some PR strategy. He survived critical mockery, personal tragedies, career slumps, and industry skepticism, all while maintaining an unshakable belief in himself and the work. While many celebrities chase trends to stay relevant, Reeves' secret has been the opposite: he never tries to be anything but himself. That truthfulness resonates across generations in a world that increasingly prizes image over substance. Closing the story of Keanu Reeves' comeback, one can see that it isn't just about a return to box office dominance or internet fame. It's about the timeless value of kindness, persistence, and authenticity. He has become a living reminder that success is not always about speed, but endurance, that the quiet strength to keep going, to treat others with respect, and to embrace reinvention without losing yourself, can transform you into something far greater than just a movie star. It makes you timeless, and that is Keanu Reeves' true legacy.